Hey, what's going on everybody out there? Just want to make a quick video showing how to set up and calibrate the Tabor Raidr Gunstock. I've had mine for about a week or so now. I just finally dialed it in, I'd say like within the last couple days. And now that I've got it all figured out, just wanted to kind of pass along a few tips on how I got it to work. So just gonna kind of start from scratch here. Never made a video like this before, so I'm just kind of gonna go for it. I'll try to add in like some pictures and some b-roll and stuff, make things a little more obvious. That needs some more explaining, but hopefully it's pretty easy to keep up with. Well, first off is what you're gonna need. You're gonna need a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, and some tape, preferably masking tape. So like I've got one of these screwdrivers right here. It's ratcheting. I can switch from flathead to Phillips, and just a little bit of green masking tape. I wouldn't recommend using anything permanent like duct tape. It just leaves a lot of residue. So like electrical tape, masking tape, probably be your best friend in this. First thing you're gonna want to do, and this is in the instructions somewhat, is you're gonna want to tighten up basically all the screws. And the ones that we're mainly focusing on tightening up, I'm gonna take off the little rubber thing for a second, is this one here at the top. I'm sure you guys can see that one. And then flip this thing down. There's another one here on the bottom. Here, let me tighten up this top one first, then we'll get to the bottom one. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that one up. So now the reason you need a flathead screwdriver, and you may or may not need one, is at least for my Gunstock, when I was first putting it together, taking it apart a few times, I noticed that where the actual magnet connects to the carbon fiber pole itself was a little bit loose. So I'd recommend just going in here and just making sure. I was only on one of them, so I tightened one of them up. I was like, oh, that's a little bit loose. Went to go tighten up the other one, and it was already pretty damn tight. So I was like, oh, that one's fine. So just make sure these are tight. Like this one has actually seemed to have come loose a little bit since I've been using it. So I'm glad I did that. And same for the other one. Guess there's really no reason to take those back off. But again, well, I guess I haven't said this yet, but this is kind of one of those things like do at your own discretion. I'm pretty sure you're screwing a piece of metal into a carbon fiber pole. Those two materials don't really like each other, so be careful not to overdo it and like crack the carbon fiber or something. You just want to make sure it's not loose. Well, one of mine was a little loose, so just make sure they're tight. That's all. That's the only thing you'll need a flathead screwdriver for. So I'll go ahead and put that away. Alright, so as far as tightening of screws, that should be all you need to do. So once again, it was this one here where this the pole meets this base plate. Tighten that one up, and then this one here. I don't know how to explain that one, but that one. So now this is the part where the tape starts to come in handy. So you kind of want to go ahead and tighten this up just so it stays on this rod. But this adjustment point here that corresponds with the thumb screw. So whenever you loosen this, it allows this thing to move, spin this way, left and right, go up and down like we were doing earlier, but then it also swings on the whole pole, right? And that's where it gets a little tricky. So what I would recommend doing is getting it kind of to where you want it, so about in the middle. Obviously that's personal preference, and I want this logo to be pretty much facing up. But you can adjust that later if you need, like for indexing of this part into the other one, so you're not having to twist your hand too much later. You can kind of put it where you want, but I want this pretty much facing up. So this in the middle with that up, Gonna tighten this up a little bit, not get too crazy. But then tape it so that whenever you go to loosen this, because we're gonna have to adjust it a few times. This way it's not spinning. Damn it, my tape's not peeling together. Yeah, I would recommend putting a little bit of just a piece of tape between the metal and the carbon fiber, just to keep it from spinning while we're doing what we're doing here. So as you can see now, I've got it totally loose, but it's not, you know, the tape's keeping it from spinning around, which is gonna make things way easier, believe me. Believe me. So now I'll do the same for the other side. All right, so now we're at the point where we can go ahead and pop our controllers on here. Go ahead and bring our little strap around here. Hook it on. I don't think I really need to explain much on how to hook a strap across your controller, but what I will show you is how to line it up once you have it on there. If you're dropping stuff. So if you look at this controller, this is a Quest 2 controller, obviously. We have this line that comes down beside the trigger here, making all sorts of noise. I'd recommend lining that up with the line on this black rubber. So you see there's a line. Yeah, it might be kind of hard to see with this light, but there's a line here on this black piece of rubber that goes up here. We're gonna line it up with this. The line that goes up on the controller right next to the trigger. So I don't have it perfectly lined up right there, as you might be able to see, so I'm going to kind of twist it. You can kind of feel it. It kind of like gets into a spot where it likes to be. But there, it's pretty well lined up. Pretty well lined up. This is kind of getting in the way, but you can see what we're going for there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, what I like to do here is take some tape and go across that little rubber strap to keep it secure. Now, obviously, this is not something that you need to do. My shit is loose and spinning all over the place. Tighten her up. But yeah, take a piece of tape and go across the black strap if you're like me and you want it to feel a little more secure. Because the way it is, I just feel like I'm gonna detach it at any point. It's just not secure enough, and I want to know that this controller is not moving around inside. Yeah, I mean, obviously when I'm holding this, you can't see that there's tape on it, you know, at least the part that I'm holding, so it doesn't bother me none. But that's up to you whether you would like to do that. I'm sure a lot of people probably don't, but for me, I need the peace of mind and not knowing that strap is gonna come loose, especially since the little nub on one of my straps popped off immediately upon me trying to use it the very first time. So it's already just kind of sitting on there, you know. So I just kind of go around there with some tape, real quick and easy. Just one time around, press down the excess, and done. And that thing's locked in, you know. The tape's doing its job. That's on you whether or not you would like to do the tape trick. Alright, so our controllers are lined up. Now it's the part where we actually need to do something in the game. Now, what we want to do is actually line up these physical tubes you know, these carbon fiber tubes should be straight with our gun. But before we even do that, there's another part that a lot of people probably already don't have right. And so what we're going to do is go into our, I think it's controls, no, it's just under game. Come down to, should be hand rotation offset, something like that. If I can find it. Here it is, hand pitch rotation offset. See, that's a problem. Mine, I'm pretty sure I had mine up at like 40 something. It shouldn't be at 0. If yours is at 0, it's probably not correct. So this is the best way to do this, I have found. I've got some stick drift going on. It likes to go up, so if you see this going up all crazy, that's what's happening. So the best way to get your hand pitch rotation right is just kind of hold your controller in your hand comfortably, right? And then just open your fingers, right? Turn your hand sideways, open your fingers. Now your fingers should be parallel with your character's fingers in the game. If they're not, which mine are definitely not, I need to adjust it. So his, right now, the character's hands are pointing too far to the left. So I'm pretty sure I usually put this up around like 41 or 42. But I'm just gonna kind of, well, let's move an multiplier. Where is hand pitch rotation? There it is. I'm gonna just get this out of there. Alright. So 21 degrees. And so you can see my hand in the game is turning. My right hand is slowly turning every time I move this. So just adjust this until your fingers in real life, as you look through the nose hole in your VR, are parallel with your character's fingers in the game. I'm gonna go ahead and get my hand nice and comfortable in here. So I'm touching all the controls. I'm turning it sideways and just put my fingers out. This is actually easier to do when you don't have the Gunstock on. But and yeah, I can see that I need to go a little bit farther. Go to where crap, come on, not 90 degrees. My hand is broken now. Yeah, there we go. So it's about 45 is where I like to be right now. Let me check my other hand. Yeah, it's about parallel for me. So 45 degrees is where I need it. I would say it's important you do this first before we start doing anything else, because this changes, you know, just how your hands are aligned up and down. And it should be correct. If you've had this wrong the whole time, like if you go do this and your fingers are like way unparalleled, it's gonna feel weird at first. But don't fight it. This is the way it's supposed to be. Your hands should be lined up with this guy's hands. Okay. So now that you got your hands lined up, what we have next here, I've got this whole instructions written down. Yeah, we're gonna line up these rods on the controllers. All right, so go ahead and pick up your weapon. Let me close this. Aim your weapon forward. So right now, my gun is pointed perfectly straight. As you can see, this rod is not. Maybe this is kind of hard to tell. Okay. So basically, I want to have my gun pointing straight and these rods pointing straight at the exact same time, right? Don't worry too much about the up and down. We're gonna do that later. Right now, all we're focused about is we want this rod to be pointing the same place that the gun is. So what I would recommend is aim at something, like say this bullseye. All right, so I know that the gun is aiming at it. Now, if I look at this rod, it's not even close. So we're gonna go ahead. You can just loosen up this thumb screw right here. This little flip screw. Here, maybe this is the better camera. Hold up. We're going back to the golfing range. Yeah, you can just go ahead and loosen up this guy, or you could loosen it up on this side. They do basically the same thing. You just want to always make sure you're tightening up the flip latch before you tighten up the screw. Because if you tighten the screw all the way down and then you go to crank down on the flip latch, you could overdo it. Yeah. So I'm just going to loosen this up a little bit. Alright, now let's line them up. So I got my gun in the game aimed at the... Oh, that's pretty, that does it. I kind of did it right there. So that's aiming at the bullseye. No, I still need to turn a little bit more. Alright, one more. That's pretty close. Let me bring it back. There we go. That looks good to me. Alright. Perfect. So, I'm going to go ahead and lock that back down. Probably should have used the flip latch for this part. Okay, so now my gun is straight with the carbon fiber rod. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our left hand. And that is pretty straight. Okay, so now we have our rods pointing straight with our weapon. Yep, that looks good. Now we're going to make sure the pitch is right. So basically, we want to be able to hold our rods horizontal while the barrel of the gun is also pointing horizontal. Let me see where I'm at right now. Not even close right there. That's not even close. So, now this part can kind of be personal preference in a bit. I believe that you want this plate right here. Let me bring that down. I believe you want this plate to be parallel with this rod. So I'm going to loosen this up and kind of tilt this back. I think just for the sake of the way that the forces are getting put through this thing, you know, with you constantly attaching it and detaching it, I think it's best if it's at a nice 90-degree angle. I didn't design this thing, but that's just, if I did design this thing, that's kind of how I would imagine it. Alright, so now that I've got this nice and leveled out, this plate here is level with the rod. Well, for the most part. It actually looks like it's pointed up a little bit. Hold on. Alright, so I now have this level. This plate here is level with this rod now. I think that's a good starting place. If you would like to have it tilted, I'm not sure if that's a great idea, but I think that's an area of personal preference. But I'm gonna kind of go with it at the 90-degree angle, so I just kind of feel like that's where it should be. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is go in here to our settings, go down, or I was already scrolled down, but you have these 3 calibrations at the top, you know, height calibration, screen calibration. Go to Gunstock calibration. You're going to need to do this for all of your guns, but I'm just going to do it for a rifle right now, because this is what most people are going to do it for first, I assume. So I like to go ahead and connect these things right now. And so I'm already running into an issue, or when I go to connect these, this rod isn't, like, these teeth don't line up. So I can just kind of look at it and see, okay, well, I need to turn this about 15 degrees or so. So I'm going to loosen up my tape. Right here. And I'm going to spin this just a little bit. Alright, so now when you go to Calibrate, I recommend to go ahead and attach these together. Now we want to make sure that when the post for this one is pointing straight up. So if I'm looking dead on at this back post that's supporting the plate, that should be pointing straight up, and you want the same thing from this one up here. So if you have to, you can loosen this and move it around on the pole, kind of like I did, so that they're both straight up and down. Alright, so now they both go together. both straight. We'll go here to where it says calibrate. Alright, my stick drift is going to make this really painful. But basically, what I want to do is hold my gunstock level. So right now I'm looking at both my rods, they're pretty much level. And I want my barrel to be level. Which honestly, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's creeping up because of stick drift. But right about there, it's good. Alright, hit both controllers, lock that, hit both triggers and lock that in. Okay. Now there's more adjustments we need to make in there, but we're not going to do those right now. Because, so now at this point, we have it so that here with our right hand, if we hold this sideways, you can see this rod is pretty much level. Now this needs to be adjusted. I didn't get that right. Alright. So now, I'm going to hold this level. The gun that I'm looking at on screen, the barrel, is also pretty much level. This is what we're looking for. Alright, line them up as best you can, obviously. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time getting it perfect right now. I can adjust it later. Alright, so now we're going to want to do the same thing for our left hand. But with our left hand, we're not going to use the calibration. So what we just did, like if we go back into the calibrate, screen, it only calibrates for our right hand when we're doing the whole up and down. So if I aim this right now, I'm holding my rod level. The gun is aimed like way down at the ground. So to fix that, we're gonna physically loosen this up and crank the controller back. Let me see. I might be able to do it without using. Oh yeah, there we go. Well, be nice if I didn't drop the gun right there. That might actually be pretty close. So I'm holding it level. Gun's pointed up just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring her back down just a tiny smidge. So right here. Those look pretty matched up to me. Squeeze that in, lock her down. Alright. So that's way better. So my rod's level, barrel's level. That's what we're looking for. Make sure we're still lined up straight. And we aim at the door with the gun. Aim at the door with my rod. And yep. Those are very straight still. Okay, cool. So now, with both hands, we should be able. The gun should pretty much be perfectly lined up with both of our hands right now. So as far as aiming straight, my rod's lined up with what the gun's doing. And as far as this way, they're lined up. Same thing with this hand. Alright. Now we're going to go back into the calibrator and adjust the height of our gun. Basically how our hands line up. And then also going to adjust how far front and back the gun sits from our body. Alright, so now we're back here. What you want to do, so I'm sure a lot of you guys actually have the buttstock part that I don't have. It extends a little bit, it's got the little shoulder rest. So what I'd recommend you do is just literally just hold this, and it's kind of hard to hold this thing sideways, but just tap the end of your stock, and it should in your mind feel like you're tapping the end of the gun that you're looking at through your headset. So, and it makes more sense once you actually do it. But if you're touching your buttstock and it feels like it's inches behind where the end of the stock is in virtual reality, just try to line them up. And that's actually pretty easy. Now for me, I don't have a buttstock. What I'm working with here is a lot shorter than a normal gun. So I would say is just put your gun where you're going to hold it. For me, it's pretty much always going to be like this. And just look at where the stock is. Is it way far back so it's going through your body? If so, adjust the gun to bring it forward using your left thumbstick. And obviously if it's the opposite way, if you're like this and I'm looking at the end of the buttstock here, it's not even touching me. Well, I need to bring that back. So it's about here. And now, obviously your hands should be just about lined up, because there, your controllers are the same height here. So you want your hands, you wouldn't want this hand to be way above this one or way below this one, obviously. So you're gonna want to pretty much line them up. You can this could be a little bit of personal preference here. I like to keep mine a little bit higher, if I'm being honest. Just a tiny bit. So I don't have to lift the gun up as high when I go to aim. But for the most part, you just want to have these lined up as best as you can. So right about there looks good. Make sure I'm good on. Yeah, my pitch is all messed up for my stick drift. That looks right there as far as the length. Make sure I'm still good on my pitch, because stick drift is being a punk right now. Should be it. Alright. So once you've done all those things, you should pretty much have a fully calibrated gun stock. You should be able to pick up your gun with either hand. It should be straight. It should be even with your rods and your barrel. Your rod should be straight with your crosshair. And when you lock them in, everything should be working nice and synergistically. Now, here is a very important part of this. So what a lot of people do is they'll come over here with their hand and they'll just grab this and then they'll go and put that on. It's not really what you want to do, because some of these are shorter and longer, and kind of wherever your hand is when you grab this, everywhere you move your hand after that, as you can see, the game uses that as like, oh, you want to aim the gun, where it's like, no, you're just trying to attach it. And so now once you let go, you can see that's in a very different spot than it was. So what I recommend is get into the habit of attaching this first and then grabbing your gun stock. Because we lined up our hands and everything, your hand's always going to be pretty much in that same spot. Now I can obviously take my physical hand off of this. The controller's always going to be in that same position, which is where your foregrip is always going to be. So there's really no need to grab the foregrip first. I would recommend getting into the habit of attaching this and then grabbing your foregrip. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that little bit of knowledge with everybody. Hopefully that makes things easier for people. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Peace out.